They call them ghosts, drifters, lone wolves, men with nothing to lose and everything to prove. But that's where most people get it wrong. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most misunderstood and dangerous roles in outlaw motorcycle culture, the nomad. This is not the romanticized image from Hollywood, the lone rider chasing freedom on endless highways. These are strategic operatives deployed by powerful organizations for specific missions. They're not just bikers, they're enforcers, scouts, and sometimes the most feared men in a room filled with their own brothers. In this breakdown, we'll explore 8 truths about nomads, facts that could save your life if you ever cross paths with one, and details so deep that even some club members don't fully understand them. What you're about to hear challenges everything you think you know. Let's start by clearing up a major misconception. A nomad is not a lone wolf. A lone wolf rides alone by choice, detached from club culture, uninterested in obligations. You can buy a lone wolf patch at any bike shop. It's a lifestyle, not a threat. But a nomad patch is something else entirely. A nomad patch means the wearer is part of a criminal organization. It signifies deployment, authority, and a readiness to carry out the most serious business on behalf of the club's leadership. Nomads belong to no regional chapter. They report only to the nomad president or the mother chapter, carrying the club's reputation on their back wherever they go. Officially, being a nomad means you're not tied to any one territory, but in practice it's far more complex and far more dangerous. Every club structures its nomads differently, but there's a common thread. You don't ask to be a nomad. You're selected, you're assigned. Sometimes you're exiled, but always it's a reflection of trust, experience, and past actions. Nomads are not chosen because they like riding alone. They're chosen because they've proven themselves under pressure. And once they're out there, they're not just roaming aimlessly. They're deployed for a reason. A nomad in your area isn't just passing through. He's gathering intel, enforcing rules, checking in on troubled chapters, or establishing a beachhead in a new territory. These moves are rarely announced, but they're always calculated. Nomads operate like chess pieces, placed with purpose, moving with precision, and make no mistake, their presence is rarely good news for someone. A club looking to expand doesn't drop 20 members and a clubhouse in a new city overnight. First, they send a nomad. He tests the waters, handles the politics, and gauges the temperature of local clubs and law enforcement. If he succeeds, the chapter follows. If he fails, expansion ends. Nomads also serve another role, damage control. When heat is too high, when local politics become a liability, when things need to cool off, the club pulls key members and deploys them as nomads. It's not always a promotion. Sometimes it's exile under a different name. There's another truth about nomad life. There is no safety net. If you're a patched chapter member and trouble breaks out in a bar, backup is one phone call away. 20 members could arrive before you finish your drink. That's the strength of chapter brotherhood. But a nomad? He walks in alone and walks out the same way unless he handles the situation himself. The patch on his back commands respect, but it doesn't guarantee backup. If things go sideways, it's on him to resolve it. And this isn't just theory. Nomads are high-value targets. Law enforcement watches them closely. Rival clubs know they operate solo and often see them as open season. The freedom that comes with nomad status is real, but so is the isolation. Even within their own clubs, nomads can be resented. Chapter members put in the work, meetings, dues, maintenance, and daily operations. Nomads bypass much of this, yet wear the same patch and expect the same respect. That rubs some brothers the wrong way. And because nomads aren't present for the small, shared experiences that build real brotherhood, their relationships within the club are often distant. They are respected, but not always trusted or embraced. It's a lonely road. The truth is, nomads aren't free riders. They're strategic operatives. The things that make nomad life appealing, the freedom, the autonomy, are also what make it hard. Nomads miss out on the emotional bonds forged through everyday loyalty and struggle. They don't get the inside jokes, the spontaneous hangouts, or the tight-knit support system of a chapter. They are known, but they are rarely known well. And the idea that every nomad chooses this life? That's a myth too. Some nomads are appointed. Others are removed from chapters due to politics, heat, or internal conflict. Not every nomad woke up one day and chose freedom. For some, it was the only option left. The truth is, nomads aren't free riders. They're strategic operatives. They serve purposes most people will never see and play roles most people can't imagine. Understanding that difference can mean the difference between respect and regret, between caution and catastrophe. When you see a nomad patch, remember, it's not a fashion statement. It's a signal, a warning, and a story that's far more serious than Hollywood ever told you. Some members are assigned nomad status, not as a reward, but as a strategic necessity. In many cases, these individuals have become too hot in their home states, perhaps due to conflicts with rival clubs, rising law enforcement pressure, or internal disputes with chapter leadership. Keeping them in place becomes a liability for the organization. These individuals may still be considered valuable, too skilled, too connected, or too dangerous to expel outright. The solution is to send them into nomad status. This removes them from sensitive local environments while keeping them within the club's structure. In effect, they become someone else's responsibility. In other cases, the move to nomad status is more about politics than punishment. Some members are simply too independent or strong-willed to function within local chapter chains of command. Instead of letting these personalities create ongoing conflict or losing them entirely, the organization repurposes their autonomy by granting them nomad status, where independence becomes an asset rather than a problem. However, nomad status isn't always a promotion or badge of honor. Often it serves as a form of exile disguised as freedom, removing troublesome members under the appearance of giving them elevated responsibility. Understanding the difference between chosen and assigned nomad status explains why some wear the patch with pride, while others do so with visible resentment. The temporary nature of nomad status. Another often misunderstood aspect is the idea that nomad status is permanent. In reality, it's often a temporary assignment, more like a waiting room than a final destination. Nomads can be brought back into chapter structure at any time, depending on changing political dynamics, manpower needs, or shifts in expansion strategies. Imagine living years as a nomad, riding freely, answering only to national leadership, only to receive a call assigning you back to a local chapter. Suddenly you're expected to attend weekly meetings and re-engage in local politics and duties you thought you left behind. Sometimes this recall isn't about growth, but about control. When national leadership feels a nomad is drifting too far from club discipline, placing them back into chapter life serves as a way to tighten oversight and ensure they remain aligned with organizational goals. What nomads truly represent. At the core, nomads represent the purest form of what outlaw club patches mean. No clubhouse, no local ties, no geographical allegiance, just the national name across their back with nomad beneath it. That purity is both powerful and dangerous. They are feared because they walk into a room relying solely on their personal reputation and the weight of the entire organization. They are envied for their freedom from local politics, internal rivalries, and administrative duties. But this purity comes with serious consequences. A nomad's every move reflects directly on the national organization. There are no excuses, no buffers. Their actions, whether respectful or reckless, are perceived as direct expressions of the club's core identity. Regular chapter members can sometimes pass off mistakes as personal errors or blame local dynamics. Nomads don't have that luxury. They are the club in the eyes of outsiders, law enforcement, and rivals alike. That level of pressure requires extreme discipline and constant awareness. Why nomad status isn't for everyone. The decision to grant someone nomad status is not taken lightly. One wrong move by a nomad can damage an entire national reputation or jeopardize organizational strategy. That's why not everyone who wants to become a nomad is allowed to. Only those who can shoulder the weight are considered. True understanding of nomad culture means looking past the myth of freedom. These aren't just riders enjoying the open road. They're tactical operatives with clear objectives working under dangerous, complex, and high-pressure circumstances. Law enforcement intelligence consistently identifies nomads as advanced forces for territorial expansion, internal troubleshooters, high-value targets for rival clubs. Their status as isolated operatives and strategic assets makes them both highly effective and highly vulnerable. The human cost. Academic studies and law enforcement reports suggest nomads experience higher rates of substance abuse, relationship failure, mental and emotional burnout, eventual departure from outlaw life. The psychological strain of extended isolation, constant vigilance, and lack of support structures creates immense pressure. These men often operate without the daily camaraderie that supports traditional chapter members. Even economically, nomads face challenges. Without a steady place in chapter-run businesses or support systems, they must either find independent income sources or rely on uncertain organizational backing, civilian risk, and isolation. Nomads in unfamiliar territories also face additional danger from civilian interactions. Without the local infrastructure and support of a chapter, they must navigate every encounter alone. This increases the chance of misunderstandings, conflicts, or law enforcement entanglements, with potentially serious consequences. Training, transition, and sustainability. Preparation for nomad life is rigorous. It often involves tests of loyalty, resourcefulness, and independence under pressure. Clubs cannot afford to deploy someone who lacks discipline, good judgment, or the ability to operate solo. Even when nomads retire or transition back into chapters or civilian life, the psychological adjustment is intense. After years of autonomy and constant danger, reintegrating into a structured environment can be jarring and difficult. Nomads occupy a unique space in outlaw culture, one that combines the illusion of freedom with immense responsibility. They are simultaneously respected and burdened, empowered and isolated. Whether nomad status is a path to personal growth or self-destruction depends on personality, support, and purpose. For some, the challenge is exhilarating. For others, it's a slow spiral toward burnout or collapse. What's clear is that the nomad system is no accident. It's a carefully designed strategy used by criminal organizations across the globe, from North America to Europe and Australia. It solves specific structural problems like territory control, member discipline, and strategic expansion. But its effectiveness comes at a cost, both to the individuals who wear the patch and the broader communities impacted by their presence. Understanding the nomad role means going far beyond the Hollywood image of a free-spirited rider. It requires seeing these men as strategic tools deeply embedded in organizational hierarchies and bearing responsibilities most civilians will never comprehend. Nomad culture isn't about escape, it's about execution. And the people who carry that title are rarely free. They're simply operating in a different kind of cage,